if Alabama became the answer to our healthcare crisis in America today? As you probably all are aware, our state and our nation has a problem with our food supply. It is largely unhealthy, it is unsustainable, and the consequences are catastrophic for our citizens and our entire country. What I'd like to do today is put forth some ideas that I hope you find thought-provoking and call you to action in your communities. Very important. I'd like to provide you first with a few arrows in your quiver to go fight the good fight in your community. Remember a few things. You are the consumer. The market follows you. If you demand today and every day moving forward a healthy, sustainable food supply for you, your family, and your city and your state, someone will provide that, guaranteed. Supply and demand works. Also, I would remind you that you are the future of this state and this nation, that your leadership and your commitment to a healthy, sustainable food supply is critical. We've talked a lot about leadership here today, very important. Find your leadership voice on this. It's very important. How do we start down this road? It's a big and a grand idea. Where do we begin? In our cities and around the state. I would like you to view beginning in these terms. Imagine viewing community and business development through the prism of a healthy, sustainable food supply for all Alabamians. Let me repeat that. Imagine getting started by viewing and valuing community development through the prism of a healthy, sustainable food supply for all Alabamians. It's a great starting point. So when thinking through the value of that, you also have to think about what's sustainability. What is a sustainable food supply? A sustainable food supply is a food supply that doesn't harm our bodies, doesn't harm our environment or our water table. Unfortunately, currently, we are putting far too many chemicals into our agricultural practices, our husbandry practices, through things like pesticides and overuse of antibiotics and hormones and the use of GMOs. Those must be eliminated from a healthy, sustainable food supply. We also have to think about a healthy, sustainable food supply as medicine. Medicine that makes us strong, but cures really, really big issues for all of us. So when thinking about the value of that food supply and what the potential is, imagine if we started today to where every citizen who was born into Alabama from the day they were born to their last breath had access to that food supply. I think we could do some amazing things. We could reverse the obesity rates in this state and the cost of the health care to treat the chronic illnesses that are associated with obesity caused by an unhealthy food supply. Imagine if we provided better pre- and postnatal care to every child born in Alabama. Stronger mind, stronger body. Better cognitive health, better education, more success for every person in Alabama. Now, we also need to provide those young people with a healthy meal program from K through 12 in our public school systems. Critical. Currently, we are not doing a very good job of that. I worry, me personally, about the things we're putting into the young people's bodies every day. We can reverse that, and we should reverse it. It's a moral imperative, and we owe our children that at a minimum. Also imagine if Alabama became the largest producer of healthy, sustainable food in the nation. Imagine that. You might have noticed in the news recently, California has a little bit of an issue. They have a drought going on. California produces 50% of the fruits, vegetables, and nuts that this country eats every year. Imagine if that crop fails this year. It could be a real problem for our country. But think about that opportunity in Alabama answering that call by developing and thinking through what it takes to become the leading producer of healthy, sustainable food in America. If I know two things about Alabama, I know this. We know how to grow things, and we have water. We can meet this challenge. There's no question about that. Also, when I think about these things, I think about what a competitive edge a healthy, sustainable food supply could give in attracting people and businesses to Alabama. If someone who's looking at our state as a place to come to start a family or business, and they knew that we here today had committed to a healthy, sustainable food supply and the business model around it, I think that gives us a huge and competitive edge. So those are just a handful of things. I mean, I could go on and on about the potential of this idea, this big idea. However, let's start thinking and talking about maybe coming up with some ideas that are going to get us from where we are today into this possibility. I have here a sweet potato grown in Moundville, Alabama by David Snow and his fabulous team, Snow's Bend Farm. And this sweet potato represents the idea of a healthy, sustainable food supply. Here, we have a three-legged stool that represents the foundation on which this must rest. All right, there's your metaphor. So, when I think of the first leg in the stool, I think of commitment. So, commitment, I look at as how do you eat the elephant? Well, of course, the answer to that is one bite at a time. And I'll tell you a story about commitment. Over 20 years ago, my wife and I moved from San Francisco, where I'd been a young chef working in California. I discovered through my work a sustainable food supply that blew my mind. It was a game changer. It was a life changer for me. I knew that I wanted one day to open a business, a restaurant, where I had access to a healthy, sustainable food supply for my business, but also I wanted to live in a place where that had value. It had value in raising my children and growing them in a healthy place that valued a healthy, sustainable food supply. So when I came to Alabama, I started to look around to see what was out there. Well, there wasn't a very well built out food supply out there, a sustainable food supply. So I began looking around. And when I would find a supplier, a purveyor, we'd put their name on the menu. Jones Valley Teaching Farm arugula salad. People would come into our restaurant, they'd eat the salad and go, oh my God, it's the best thing I've ever had in my life. Where do I get this? This is amazing. I need this in my life. I said, great. It's just down the road in downtown Birmingham. They're doing amazing things by providing the underserved community in downtown Birmingham access to healthy, sustainable food. You go and buy that arugula there, you support that effort. It's good for your community. It's good for you. Support it. So you can imagine over the past 19 years in our business, we have these conversations every night at table with our customers. Tens of thousands of conversations over the years. And it's built, as you all know, an awareness in our community for the value and the importance of locally grown, sustainable, seasonal food. It's really a part of kind of who we are. That's become a mantra of ours. I would argue it's become more than a mantra. I would argue it has become our ethos. Ethos, of course, is that which describes the character of an ideology, a movement, a nation. Here in Alabama, our ethos is strong, no question. However, if you look today at that food supply, it's much better than it was 20 years ago, but it's not large enough to supply every Alabamian. So, or provide access to a healthy food supply for every Alabamian. So what do we have to do now? You, all of you here today, if you have not already, you need to commit to this idea of a healthy, sustainable food supply for all Alabamians. It's very important, but you have to spend your time, you have to spend your resources, and you have to spend your money to support these farming communities, fishing communities, husbandry communities, dairies, cheesemakers, all of them. And supporting them, you help build this infrastructure that ultimately will get us towards what will be a long road, a long way off. But if we commit today, if you all commit here to go into your communities and make a difference, it will happen. Let's talk about the second leg of the stool. I made reference to it earlier, leadership. Leadership matters today, leadership mattered yesterday, it will matter tomorrow. I think about types of leaders in this movement. I think about people who are really good at coalescing like-minded individuals towards a path of success. If that's the kind of leadership you're really good at, go out into your underserved communities and gather people together. Start a farmer's market. Look at doing an edible schoolyard program. Start a CSA. Do a teaching farm. But coalesce people towards this idea. Let's say you're an individual and prefer doing it kind of by yourself. Go to Hilltop Montessori School, look at their edible schoolyard program. Go to the farmer's market at Pepper Place, study that market, look at it, get involved, help grow it, understand it, and then take that idea into an underserved community. Jones Valley Teaching Farm today is doing some of the most amazing work in developing and providing a healthy, sustainable food supply for the underserved community. They've got many, many, many different programs you can learn about and you can show leadership on, grow it, and take it out on the road to an underserved community. Leadership matters. Find your voice. The last thing I will talk about relative to the third leg of the stool is infrastructure. You can't get from where we are today towards every Alabamian having access to a healthy, sustainable food supply without infrastructure. So when thinking about such a big idea, you have to start with a master plan. We've got to get together with the top leaders in public and private development. All of you citizens, come together, let's plan, let's put together this master plan that will take us today into tomorrow and ultimately what may be a generation from now towards this goal. As part of that infrastructure, I would like to see attached to every main farmer's market in every county a Sustainable Alabama Distribution Center where any Alabamian from that county could come and have access to prepared or raw, sustainable, healthy food, recipes, cooking classes, information on how to budget better, also access to a SNAP program. SNAP is an acronym for Supplemental Nutrition Program, where if you're on food stamps, you can double your dollars towards healthy food. It's a very important program that we need to have in every county and every farmer's market in this state. Start a SNAP program somewhere. Also, I would advocate that we need to provide low interest rate loans for those who produce healthy, sustainable food in this state. If all of a sudden there's a groundswell of desire for these things, because you're the consumer and you can make that happen, then they need to meet the added demand. But they can only do that through expanding their production, and we need to provide them access to dollars to do so. It's just good business, very simple. Also, I think we should provide a gold standard on all of the products produced by that group of people. Sustainable Alabama gold standard of best in practices for providing sustainable, healthy food. That does a number of things. It tells you, the consumer, that you are going to buy something that's going to be good for you, good for your family, good for your health. Also, you're supporting something that's bigger than just yourself. It's a movement towards a well built out, sustainable, healthy food supply for everyone. It's also good for these businesses because it adds values to their product, and it also adds value to their businesses. It's very important. I'll give you an example of this. Many, many years ago, Parma, Italy, just like a lot of places, was producing ham and cheese. Well, they banded together a long time ago to create standard practices for best sustainable practices to create the best ham and the best cheese. This cheese was Parmigiano Reggiano. This ham was Prosciutto di Parma. Those who produced under those standards got that stamp, Prosciutto di Parma, Parmigiano Reggiano. As you know, those are all world-class products, and they're fantastic, and Alabama can take a lesson out of Parma's page and create such an important thing. Now, when you leave here in a few minutes, there's going to be a box waiting for you on the other side of that door. Inside that box is a reminder for all of you to think about going out into your communities and planting a seed towards this goal. And that seed one day becomes a fully grown, massive tree that we're going to call a healthy, sustainable food supply that's available to all Alabamians. Then, what I'd like you to do is imagine your great-grandchildren resting under that tree, saying, wow, how awesome were our great-grandparents to think through, create, build out a state where from the minute I was born to I took my last breath, I lived in a healthier place where I could live and raise my family and grow my businesses. To me, this is the hope and the value of viewing community development through the prism of a healthy, sustainable food supply for all Alabamians. Thank you very much.